Jake Morrison pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of the 47th floor. The big office building was quiet at 2 in the morning. Only the sound of his cartwheels and the soft hum of air conditioning filled the space. Jake liked the night shift. It paid a little more money and he could be home when Katie woke up for school. He stopped at the first office and pulled out his spray bottle. The work was simple but tiring. Clean the desks, empty the trash, vacuum the floors. Jake had been doing this job for 3 years now, ever since his wife Linda died in the transport accident. Before that, he worked in a factory during the day. But when Katie was left with just him, night work made more sense. Jake thought about Katie as he wiped down another desk. She was 8 years old now and so smart. Last week, she helped him fix their broken food processor by reading the manual out loud. Katie never complained about their small apartment or the fact that they couldn't afford many things. She was happy as long as they were together. The 47th floor took Jake about 2 hours to clean. When he finished the last office, he wheeled his cart toward the storage area near the observation deck. The building had a small outdoor area on this floor where people could go during lunch breaks. Jake sometimes went there to eat his own meal and look out at the city lights. As he passed the storage containers near the deck door, Jake heard a soft sound. It was like someone trying not to cough but failing. Jake stopped and listened. There it was again. Someone was definitely behind the big metal containers. Jake felt worried. Sometimes homeless people found ways into buildings to sleep. The security guards usually kicked them out, but Jake felt bad about that. He remembered being hungry when he was a kid before his mom got her second job. "Hello?" Jake called softly. "Are you okay back there?" The sound stopped completely. Jake waited a moment, then walked around the storage container. What he saw made him step back in surprise. A person was sitting against the wall, but something was very wrong. The person's skin looked blue-silver in the dim light, and their arms and legs seemed too long. They wore torn clothes that looked like they were made from some kind of shiny material. The person's head was down, and Jake could see they were shaking. Jake's first thought was that someone was playing a trick or wearing a costume. But as he got closer, he could see this was real. The person's breathing was shallow and weak. Their strange, large eyes looked up at Jake with fear. "Please," the person said in a voice that sounded different from any human voice Jake had ever heard. "Please don't hurt me." Jake quickly held up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. Are you sick? Do you need help?" The person stared at Jake for a long moment. Jake could see they were very thin, like they hadn't eaten in days. Their clothes were dirty and had holes in them. Whatever this person was, they were in bad shape. "You're not human," Jake said quietly. It wasn't a question. The person shook their head slowly. "I am far from home. Lost. Very hungry." Jake felt his heart break a little. It didn't matter that this person looked different. They were hungry and scared, just like any person might be. Jake thought about Katie and how she always shared her snacks with kids at school who forgot their lunch. "Wait here," Jake said. "I'll be right back." Jake went to his cart and got his lunch bag. Linda used to pack his meals, but now he and Katie made them together every evening. Tonight's meal was a turkey sandwich, an apple, and a thermos of vegetable soup Katie had helped him make. Jake walked back to the strange person and sat down on the floor nearby, but not too close. He didn't want to scare them more. "Here," Jake said, holding out the sandwich. "This is for you." The person looked at the food, then at Jake, then back at the food. Their eyes filled with something that looked like tears, though Jake wasn't sure if this person could cry like humans did. "Why?" the person asked. "Because you're hungry," Jake said simply. "And I have food." Slowly, carefully, the person reached out and took the sandwich. Their hands were shaking as they unwrapped it. They took a small bite, then a bigger one. Jake could see how much they needed the food. "What's your name?" Jake asked as the person ate. "Vel," they said between bites. "My name is Vel. I'm Jake. Nice to meet you, Vel." Vel looked surprised. "You are not afraid of me?" Jake thought about it. "You don't seem dangerous. Just hungry and lost. Where are you from?" Vel pointed up toward the ceiling. "Very far. My transport broke. I have been hiding for many days. People here would be scared if they saw me." Jake understood. Humans could be afraid of things that were different. But sitting here talking to Vel felt normal somehow. Vel seemed kind and sad, not scary. "Here," Jake said, offering the thermos of soup. "This will warm you up." Vel took the soup and drank it slowly. Jake could see color returning to their blue-silver skin. After they finished eating, Vel looked much better. "Thank you," Vel said. "I have not eaten in 6 days. I thought I might die here." "You don't have to thank me," Jake said. "Anyone would help." Vel looked at Jake strangely. "No, not anyone. You are different, Jake." They sat quietly for a while. Jake was thinking about what to do. He couldn't leave Vel here with no food or help, but he also couldn't take them home to Katie. Not yet, anyway. "I work here every night," Jake finally said. "I could bring you more food tomorrow, and maybe some blankets. It gets cold up here." Vel stared at Jake like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. "You would do that for me?" "Of course," Jake said. "Friends help each other." "Friends?" Vel repeated the word softly. "Yeah, friends." Jake stood up and gathered his lunch bag. "I have to finish my work now. But I'll come back tomorrow night, okay?" Same time, Vel nodded. "I will wait here." "Thank you, Jake. Thank you for your kindness." As Jake walked away, he felt good about what he had done. He would have to make sure he and Katie had enough food to share, but they would figure it out. They always did. Jake didn't know that the person he had just helped was one of the most important beings in the galaxy. He just knew that someone was hungry and he had food to share. That seemed like the right thing to do. Jake kept his promise. The next night, he brought 2 sandwiches instead of 1. He also packed an extra thermos of soup and found an old blanket in his closet at home. Katie had asked why he was taking more food to work, so Jake told her he was helping someone who didn't have enough to eat. "Can I help too?" Katie had asked, her eyes bright with interest. "Maybe," Jake said. "Let me see how things go first." When Jake found Vel behind the storage containers, the alien looked much better. The blue-silver color of their skin seemed brighter and they weren't shaking anymore. "Jake," Vel said with what looked like a smile. "You came back. I said I would." Jake sat down and handed over the food and blanket. "How are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks to you." Vel wrapped the blanket around their shoulders. "This is very soft. What is it made from?" "Just regular fabric." "Cotton, I think." Jake watched Vel eat the sandwich. "Tell me about where you're from." "Is it far?" Vel looked up at the ceiling toward the stars. "Very far. Many, many light years away. My people live on a world with 3 suns. It is beautiful there." "Why did you come here?" Jake asked. Vel was quiet for a moment. "There was trouble. Bad people took me from my ship. I escaped, but my transport was damaged. I crashed in your ocean and swam to shore. I have been hiding ever since." Jake could hear sadness in Vel's voice. "Do you have family back home? People who are worried about you?" "Yes," Vel said softly. "I have children. They must think I am dead by now." "I'm sorry," Jake said. "That must be really hard." They talked for over an hour that night. Vel asked many questions about Earth and humans. Jake told stories about Katie, about their life together, about how hard things had been since Linda died. Vel listened carefully to everything Jake said. "Your daughter sounds wonderful," Vel said. "She is lucky to have you as a father." "I'm the lucky one," Jake replied. This became their routine. Every night Jake would bring food and spend time talking with Vel. After a week, he could see that Vel was getting stronger. The alien moved more easily and seemed less scared. On the 8th night, Katie asked if she could pack the extra food herself. "I want to help the hungry person too," she said. "Can I make them something special?" Jake thought about it. Katie was smart and kind. Maybe it was time to tell her the truth. "The person I'm helping is different," Jake said carefully. "They're not from around here. Are you okay with that?" Katie looked confused. "Different how?" "They look different from us. They're from very far away." Katie shrugged. "That's okay. If they're hungry, they need help." "It doesn't matter what they look like," Jake smiled. His daughter amazed him every day. That night, Jake brought the food Katie had packed. She had made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches cut into fun shapes and included a drawing she had made. It showed stick figures of her, Jake, and another figure labeled "Our New Friend." When Vel saw the drawing, their large eyes got watery. "Your daughter made this for me?" Vel asked. She wanted to help. "She says it doesn't matter that you look different." Vel held the drawing carefully. "She has a kind heart like her father. In my culture, we believe children see truth more clearly than adults. Your Katie sees that we are not so different inside." Over the next few days, Jake learned more about Vel. The alien was incredibly smart and knew things about science and technology that amazed Jake. When the building's elevator broke down, Vel quietly helped Jake fix it using methods that seemed impossible. When Katie got sick with a fever, Vel told Jake about natural medicines that helped her feel better quickly. "How do you know so much?" Jake asked one night. Vel looked uncomfortable. "I have lived a long time. I have learned many things." Jake could tell there was more to the story, but he didn't push. Everyone had secrets. On their 14th night together, Vel seemed worried about something. "Jake," Vel said, "I must tell you something important. There may be danger coming." "What kind of danger?" "My people are looking for me. They have powerful ships and advanced technology. If they find me here, they might not understand about our friendship. They might think you are keeping me prisoner." Jake felt scared, but not for himself. "Would they hurt Katie?" "I would never let that happen," Vel said firmly. "But Jake, maybe I should leave. I don't want to bring trouble to you and your daughter." "No," Jake said quickly. "You're not going anywhere. We'll figure this out together." Vel stared at Jake. "Why do you care so much about me? You barely know me." Jake thought about the question. "I know enough. I know you're kind and smart and far from home. I know you care about your family like I care about Katie. That's enough for me. Even if helping me puts you in danger?" "Especially then," Jake said. "Friends don't abandon friends when things get tough." That night, as Jake walked home, he thought about what Vel had said. Maybe trouble was coming. But Jake had faced trouble before when Linda died, and he had survived. He and Katie would survive this too, whatever it was. At home, Jake found Katie still awake, reading in bed. "How's our friend?" she asked. "Good, they're getting stronger." "I'm glad," Katie said. "Maybe someday I can meet them." "Maybe," Jake said. "Would you like that?" "Sure, they sound nice. And anyone you help must be a good person." Jake kissed Katie goodnight and went to his own room. As he got ready for bed, he looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere up there was Vel's home. Somewhere up there were people who missed their friend, just like Jake would miss Vel if they left. Jake made a decision. Whatever happened, he would help Vel get home safely. It was what friends did for each other. And despite everything that was strange about this situation, Jake had found something he hadn't expected to find again after Linda died. He had found a friend. 3 weeks after Jake first found Vel, strange things started happening in the sky. People all over the city were posting videos on the internet of unusual lights moving between the stars. The news channels began reporting mysterious objects in Earth's atmosphere. "Experts are unsure what these craft are," the news reporter said on Jake's small television. "Military officials say they are investigating, but so far the objects have not responded to any attempts at communication." Jake felt his stomach twist with worry. He looked at Katie, who was eating her cereal and watching the news with interest. "Dad, do you think those are alien spaceships?" Katie asked. "I don't know, sweetheart," Jake said, though he was pretty sure he did know. That night at work, Jake found Vel pacing nervously behind the storage containers. The alien looked scared in a way Jake had never seen before. "They're here," Vel said as soon as Jake appeared. "My people have found this world. The ship's on the news." Vel nodded. "They are scanning your cities, looking for me. I can feel their technology searching." Jake sat down on a box and patted the spot next to him. "Okay, tell me what's really going on. Who are you, Vel? And don't say you're just someone who got lost." Vel sat down slowly, their shoulders slumped. "You deserve the truth, Jake. You have been so kind to me, and I have not been completely honest with you." "I'm listening." Vel took a deep breath. "My full name is Vel Tarjin. I am not just anyone from my world. I was the father of our Empress," Jake blinked. "The father of an Empress?" "Yes, my daughter Lyraneth rules the Jin Collective. We are one of the most powerful civilizations in this part of the galaxy. I was traveling on a diplomatic mission when enemy forces attacked our ship. They took me prisoner, but I escaped during a battle. My transport was damaged in the fight and I crashed in your ocean." Jake stared at Vel. "So you're like alien royalty?" "I was," Vel said sadly. "But I left that life behind when I chose to help my daughter become Empress. I wanted her to lead our people without the influence of the old ways. I went into exile, but you said you were on a diplomatic mission. I was trying to make peace with our enemies. My daughter didn't know. I thought if I could solve the problem myself, she wouldn't have to risk a war." Vel looked down at their hands. "Instead, I may have started one." The pieces were starting to fit together in Jake's mind. "The ship's up there? They're looking for you." "Yes. Lyraneth must be desperate to find me. She probably thinks I'm dead." Vel stood up and walked to the window. If she doesn't find me soon, she might do something terrible to your world. What do you mean? My daughter is powerful but young for a ruler. She loves me very much and she has a temper. If she believes humans hurt me or killed me, she might attack Earth. Jake felt cold fear run through him. How long do we have? Not long. Maybe days. They stood in silence for a moment, both looking up at the stars. Jake could barely see the strange lights moving up there, but now he knew they were ships full of advanced aliens looking for his friend. I have to go to them, Vel said quietly. I have to let them find me before something bad happens. No, Jake said. Not alone. It's too dangerous, Jake, you don't understand. If they find me with you, they might think you captured me. They might hurt you and Katie. And if you just show up after being missing for weeks, what will you tell them? That you've been living behind some storage containers eating sandwiches? Vel looked surprised. I hadn't thought about that. Look, Jake said. I don't know much about alien politics, but I know something about family. Your daughter is scared and probably angry. If you want to calm her down, you need to tell her the truth. All of it, including about you, especially about me, Jake said. Let her know that humans helped you when you needed it. Maybe that will make a difference. Vel stared at Jake. You would do that? Come with me to face the most powerful military force in the galaxy. You're my friend, Jake said simply. Friends stick together. The next morning, Jake called his supervisor and said he was taking a few days off for a family emergency. Then he sat Katie down and told her everything. He explained about Vel being an alien, about the ships in the sky, and about what they might have to do. Katie listened to the whole story without interrupting. When Jake finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So our friend is alien royalty, and his daughter is looking for him with a bunch of spaceships? Katie asked. Yes. And we're going to help him talk to her so she doesn't get mad at Earth? That's the plan. Katie nodded seriously. Okay, when do we leave? Jake stared at his daughter. Katie, you can't come with us. It's too dangerous. Dad, Katie said in her most grown-up voice. Vel is our friend, and friends help friends. You taught me that. But, besides, Katie interrupted, you said his daughter is scared and angry, right? Maybe she needs to see that a human family cared about her dad. Maybe that will help her understand that we're not bad people. Jake looked at his 8-year-old daughter and realized she was probably right. Katie had a way of seeing things simply and clearly that adults often missed. That evening, Jake, Katie, and Vel stood together on the observation deck, looking up at the alien ships that were now clearly visible in the night sky. They had made their decision. Are you sure about this? Vel asked. Once we contact them, there's no going back. We're sure, Jake said, holding Katie's hand. Vel pulled out a small device from their torn clothing. This is a communication beacon. When I activate it, they will find us within minutes. Will they be angry? Katie asked. Vel looked down at her. Probably. But Jake is right. The truth is always better than lies, even when it's scary. Jake squeezed Katie's hand. Ready? Katie nodded. Ready? Vel pressed a button on the device. A soft blue light began blinking. They're coming, Vel said. In the distance, one of the lights in the sky began moving toward them, growing bigger and brighter. Jake felt his heart pounding, but he also felt something else. He felt proud. Proud of Katie for being brave, proud of Vel for trusting them, and proud of himself for doing what felt right. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The alien ship landed in the parking lot outside the office building with barely a sound. It was bigger than Jake had expected, about the size of a city bus and made from some kind of metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. Strange symbols glowed along its sides. Jake held Katie's hand tightly as they walked down from the building with Vel. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might burst. Katie seemed calmer than he felt, looking at the ship with curiosity rather than fear. It's beautiful, she whispered. A door opened in the side of the ship, and 3 figures stepped out. They looked similar to Vel but taller, and wearing what appeared to be some kind of armor. One of them saw Vel and made a sound Jake had never heard before. It sounded like relief and joy mixed together. The 3 aliens rushed toward Vel, speaking rapidly in their own language. Jake could see they were happy to find their friend, but they kept looking at him and Katie with suspicion. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, stepped forward and spoke in accented English. You are humans, the alien said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm Jake Morrison, and this is my daughter, Katie. Why do you have Veltar Jin? The alien asked. The way they said it made it sound like Jake had done something wrong. We don't have him, Katie said before Jake could answer. He's our friend. We've been helping him because he was hungry and hurt. The aliens looked surprised to hear Katie speak. They talked among themselves in their own language for a moment. The child lies, one of them said. Humans cannot be trusted. They probably captured Veltar and forced him to call us. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. We didn't capture anyone. Vel was hurt and needed help, so we helped him. That's what people do when someone needs help. Vel stepped forward and spoke to the aliens in their language. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could hear Vel defending them. The conversation went on for several minutes, with the aliens looking more and more surprised as Vel talked. Finally, the leader turned back to Jake. Veltar says you found him weak and dying and you fed him from your own food. He says you asked for nothing in return. That's right, Jake said. He also says your offspring gave up her own meals to help feed him. Her name is Katie, Jake said. And yes, she did. The alien stared at Katie for a long moment. Why? Katie shrugged. Because he was hungry and we had food. My dad always says we should help people when they need help. Before the alien could respond, a much larger ship appeared in the sky above them. This one was huge, like a floating city and covered in lights. It moved silently through the air and began to descend. Vel made a worried sound. That's the royal flagship. Lyraneth is here. The big ship landed nearby, crushing several cars in the parking lot under its weight. Jake felt sorry for whoever owned those cars, but he had bigger problems to worry about. A section of the huge ship opened, and more aliens came out. These wore fancier armor and carried weapons that glowed with energy. They formed two lines, creating a pathway. Then she appeared. Empress Lyraneth was tall and elegant, wearing robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Her skin was the same blue-silver as Vel's, but seemed to glow with inner light. Her eyes were large and intelligent, but right now they looked angry and dangerous. She walked quickly toward them, and Jake could feel power radiating from her like heat from a fire. Several more ships landed around them, and suddenly the parking lot was full of armed aliens. When the Empress saw Vel, she stopped walking and made a sound that was clearly a sob. She ran the last few steps and threw her arms around him, speaking rapidly in their language. Vel hugged her back, and Jake could see tears on both their faces. For a moment, Jake forgot to be scared. This was just a daughter who had thought she lost her father forever. But then the Empress stepped back and looked around at the humans. Her expression changed from relief to fury. Which of you held my father prisoner? She demanded in perfect English. Nobody held me prisoner, Vel said quickly. Lyraneth, listen to me. Father, you don't need to protect them, the Empress said, her voice getting louder. These primitive creatures will pay for what they did to you. I will turn their cities to ash for daring to touch a member of the royal family. Jake felt Katie squeeze his hand. He looked down and saw that she looked scared for the first time since this whole thing started. Your Majesty, Jake said, stepping forward. Please listen to your father. We didn't hurt him. We helped him. The Empress turned her angry gaze on Jake. Silence. I don't want to hear lies from your species. I've seen how humans treat those who are different. But we're not lying, Katie said in a small voice. The Empress looked down at Katie, and her expression softened slightly. Child, you don't understand what happened here. Yes, I do, Katie said, getting braver. Your dad was hurt and hungry, and my dad found him and gave him food. Then we kept bringing him food every night until he got better. We're friends. Friends? The Empress said the word like it tasted strange. Yes, Katie said. Friends help each other. That's what my dad taught me. The Empress looked from Katie to Jake to Vel. Father, tell me the truth. What really happened? Vel took his daughter's hands. The truth is that I was dying when Jake found me. I had been without food for 6 days. I was too weak to even call for help. Jake could have walked away. He could have called his authorities and had me removed. Instead, he gave me his own dinner. His family's dinner. The Empress listened carefully as Vel continued. For 3 weeks, Jake and his daughter shared their food with me. They brought me blankets when I was cold. When the child became sick, I was able to help her with medicine from our world, and Jake trusted me enough to let me do it. They knew what you were? The Empress asked. They knew I was different, yes. But Jake said it didn't matter. He said friends help friends, no matter what they look like or where they come from. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Jake could see her trying to understand something that didn't fit with what she believed about humans. You gave up your own food for a stranger? She asked Jake. It wasn't a big deal, Jake said. We had enough to share. But you work as a cleaner, yes? You don't have much money? Jake wondered how she knew that, but nodded. We have what we need. And you, the Empress said to Katie, you also gave up your meals? Just my desserts mostly, Katie said. But that was okay. Mr. Vell needed them more than I did. The Empress stared at Katie for a long time. Jake could see something changing in her expression, like ice melting in spring. You call my father Mr. Vell? Katie nodded. That's his name, isn't it? His name is Veltar Jin, former prince of the Third Moon, advisor to the throne, father of the Empress. Katie thought about this. That's a very long name. I think I'll stick with Mr. Vell. For the first time since arriving, the Empress smiled. The Empress looked at Katie for a long moment, then back at her father. Jake could see her trying to understand something that didn't make sense to her. Father, she said slowly, tell me exactly what happened. From the beginning. Vell took a deep breath and began to tell the whole story. He explained how Jake found him weak and starving, how Jake shared his own food without asking questions, how Katie insisted on helping even though it meant less food for their family. Jake continued to help me even after I told him it might bring danger, Vell said. He said friends don't abandon friends when things get tough. And when I wanted to leave to protect his family, he refused to let me go alone. The Empress listened to every word. Jake watched her face change as she began to understand what had really happened. You mean, she said to Jake, you knew helping my father might put you and your child in danger, but you did it anyway? Of course, Jake said. Vell needed help. That's what matters. But why? What did you hope to gain? Jake looked confused. Gain?
I didn't want to gain anything.
I just wanted to help someone who was hungry. The Empress turned to her advisors and spoke in her own language. They talked back and forth for several minutes. Jake caught some of the emotion in their voices, surprise, confusion, and something that sounded like wonder. Finally, the Empress turned back to them. My advisors find your behavior difficult to understand. In our experience, beings only help others when they expect something in return. That's not how humans work, Katie said. Well, not all humans. Some are mean. But good humans help people because it's the right thing to do. And you believe your father is a good human? Katie nodded firmly. The best. The Empress walked closer to Jake. You work at night cleaning buildings to support your child. You have little money and few possessions, yet you gave food to a stranger who looked nothing like you and could offer you nothing in return? Yes, Jake said simply. Why? Jake thought about how to explain it. When I was Katie's age, my family didn't have much money either. Sometimes we went hungry. I remember what that felt like. When I saw Vell was hungry, I couldn't just walk away. The Empress was quiet for a moment. And your child? She chose to help as well? Katie has a good heart, Jake said. She gets that from her mother. Your mate? Where is she? She died 3 years ago in an accident, Jake said softly. The Empress looked surprised. You are raising your offspring alone? Yes. That must be very difficult, sometimes. But Katie makes it easy. She's a great kid. The Empress knelt down so she was at Katie's eye level. Child Katie, do you understand that my father is very important to my people? I guess so, Katie said. But he's also very nice and he makes good jokes. He told me stories about his home planet while Dad was working. He told you stories? Uh-huh. About the 3 suns and the purple grass and the animals that can fly without wings. It sounds really pretty there. The Empress looked at her father with surprise. You told her about home? She asked, Vell said. She was curious about everything. She wanted to know if we had schools and games and families like humans do. She was especially interested in whether we had children. I wanted to know if you missed your kids, Katie explained to Vell. Because I would miss my dad if we were apart. The Empress stood up slowly. Jake could see she was struggling with something. In all my years of ruling, she said, I have never encountered beings like you. Your species is supposed to be primitive, selfish, violent. But you, she looked at Jake and Katie. You showed kindness to someone you had never met, asked for nothing in return, and were willing to risk danger to help him. That's what people do, Katie said. Good people anyway. The Empress turned to her advisors and spoke in their language again. This time Jake could hear decision in her voice. Jake Morrison, she said formally. On behalf of the Jin Collective, I want to offer you a reward for saving my father's life. Name anything you desire and it will be yours. Jake shook his head. I don't want a reward. I'm just glad Vel is okay and that he can go home to his family. The Empress stared at him. You refuse a reward from the Empress of the Jin Collective? It's not that I'm refusing, Jake said carefully. I just don't need anything. We're doing fine, Dad, Katie whispered, tugging on his hand. Maybe you could ask for something to help other people who are hungry like Mr. Vel was. Jake looked down at his daughter and smiled. That's a great idea, Katie. He turned back to the Empress. Actually, there is something. Not for us, but for other people. There are lots of humans on Earth who don't have enough food or medicine or places to live. If you really want to give us something, maybe you could help them. The Empress looked shocked. You want me to help other humans? People you don't even know? If you can, Jake said. It would make a big difference. For the first time since she arrived, the Empress smiled. Really smiled, not just a polite expression. Father was right about you, she said. You are extraordinary. She turned to her advisors and gave orders in her language. Then she looked back at Jake. I am going to do something that has never been done before in the history of my people. I am going to establish a formal alliance between the Jin Collective and Earth. We will share our medical and agricultural technology with your species. Jake felt overwhelmed. That's incredible. Thank you. But there is a condition, the Empress continued. I want you to be the first human-alien relations coordinator. You will work with my people to make sure this alliance succeeds. Me? Jake said. But I'm just a janitor. I don't know anything about diplomacy or politics. You know the most important thing, the Empress said. You know how to treat others with kindness and respect, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. That is the foundation of all successful relationships between different peoples. Katie tugged on Jake's hand again. Dad, can I go to alien school? The Empress laughed, a sound like silver bells. If your father agrees, you would be welcome to study with children from many different worlds. We have an intergalactic education program. Jake looked at Katie's excited face, then at Vel, who was watching everything with a proud smile. I guess we're going to have some big changes in our lives, Jake said. Good changes? Katie asked. Jake thought about it. A few weeks ago, he was just a night janitor trying to raise his daughter and make ends meet. Now he was apparently going to be Earth's first alien diplomat. Katie was going to alien school and their friend Vel was going home safely to his family. Yeah, Jake said. Good changes. The Empress stepped forward and placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. Thank you, Jake Morrison. You have shown my people something we had forgotten. That true strength comes from compassion, not power. You have changed not just your world, but ours as well. As the alien ships prepared to leave, Vel hugged Jake and Katie goodbye. I will never forget what you did for me, he said. And I will visit often. You better, Katie said. I want to hear more stories about the flying animals. As Jake watched the ships disappear into the night sky, he felt Katie slip her hand into his. Dad? She said. Are you scared about all these changes? Jake thought about the question. A little, he admitted, but also excited. We're going to help people from all over the galaxy understand each other better. That's pretty amazing. Just like we helped Mr. Vel? Just like that, Jake said, years later. When people asked Jake how he became one of the most important diplomats in human history, he would always give the same answer. He shared a sandwich with someone who was hungry. Sometimes he would say, the most important things start with the smallest acts of kindness. And whenever young diplomats from Earth or other worlds asked him for advice about building relationships between different species, Jake would tell them what he had learned from Katie. It doesn't matter what someone looks like or where they come from. What matters is treating them with kindness and respect. Everything else follows from that. The little girl who had insisted on making extra sandwiches for a hungry stranger grew up to become one of the galaxy's leading experts on interspecies cooperation. And she never forgot the lesson her father had taught her, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply help someone who needs help. The janitor who had shared his lunch with a lost alien became known throughout the galaxy as the founder of the Morrison Doctrine, the principle that lasting peace between different peoples begins with basic human decency. And in the archives of the Jin Collective, there is a drawing made by an 8-year-old human girl. It shows three stick figures labeled me, Dad, and our new friend. It is considered one of the most important historical documents in the galaxy because it represents the moment when two species learned that friendship knows no boundaries.